What if I told you that the most powerful armor against verbal attacks doesn't come from revenge, confidence, or dominance, but from silence? Not a weak silence, but a silence rooted in unshakable self-awareness. In a world where insults sting and opinions control our self-worth, Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and philosopher, left behind timeless instructions for rising above petty attacks. While others drown in emotional reactions, the Stoic doesn't flinch. He doesn't rage. He doesn't retreat. He simply doesn't react, because his self is not for others to control. Today, insults come fast and loud. On social media, in workplaces, within relationships. The moment someone says, "You're weak," "You're wrong," or "You'll never make it," we feel the heat rise. Why? Because part of us believes it. And when we believe it, we hand over our power. But what if there was a way to become completely immune? Not just to insults, but to the emotional hijacking that follows. That's exactly what Marcus Aurelius figured out 2,000 years ago. This video isn't about self-help cliches. It's about mental training, drawing from Stoic philosophy, especially the writings of Marcus Aurelius. We're going to explore the mindsets, daily disciplines, and sharp perspectives that allow a person to rise above slander, gossip, disrespect, and remain unmoved. You'll learn the Stoic method of emotional sovereignty, the real reasons insults land so hard, and most importantly, how to build an inner fortress so strong that no insult can break through. By the end of this video, you won't just understand insults differently. You'll see them as irrelevant. Because when you truly become immune, it's not because you don't hear them. It's because they no longer have meaning. Why insults hurt? The psychology behind reaction. Insults sting because they sneak past the rational mind and stab straight into the heart of identity. At their core, insults challenge who we think we are. Or worse, they confirm our hidden fears about who we might be. That's why a simple phrase like, "You're lazy," can hit harder than a physical blow. It awakens a private doubt we've tried to ignore. Psychologically, humans are wired to respond to social threats. In ancient tribal times, being excluded from the group meant death. So the mind evolved to interpret criticism as a danger signal, firing up the amygdala, releasing stress hormones, and triggering a fight-or-flight response. Today, the physical danger is gone, but the emotional circuitry still fires like you're on trial for survival. That's why insults don't just feel uncomfortable, they feel urgent. Your ego, which is the mental image of yourself you carry around, becomes activated. It wants to protect itself. It wants to fight back. It wants to be right. This is where most people go wrong. They mistake the ego's panic for their own truth. And so they lash out, trying to restore their status, to win back dignity, to prove something. But Marcus Aurelius warned against this. He said, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." This is the Stoic reset. He's not saying the insult never happened. He's saying it doesn't have to matter unless you assign it value. Modern psychology backs this up. Cognitive behavioral therapy teaches that our emotions are not caused by external events, but by the interpretation of those events. An insult is just air and sound. What gives it power is your agreement with it. Think about it. If a child called you a banana, you'd probably laugh. Why? Because you don't believe it. But if someone calls you a failure, and you've secretly feared that, suddenly it's real. So the pain doesn't come from the insult. It comes from the belief underneath it. The true battleground is internal. The insult is just the trigger. The real cause of suffering is attachment to identity and the desire to control how others see you. Stoics understood this. That's why they trained to see insults as neutral events. Not attacks. Not truths. Just opinions floating in the air. Marcus Aurelius believed that our reaction is always a choice. The problem is, Most people never train themselves to see that choice. They live on autopilot, reacting to every opinion like a puppet on strings. But when you pause, when you let the words pass through you without grabbing onto them, you reclaim your power. You remind yourself that your dignity is internal, not public. You remember that your identity isn't a reflection in someone else's mind. It's a posture of the soul. That's the psychological breakthrough. Realizing that insults only sting when they echo insecurities. Remove the insecurity, and the insult dies in silence. The Stoic Playbook. Marcus Aurelius on handling criticism. Marcus Aurelius didn't just rule an empire. He ruled his emotions. And nowhere is his mastery more evident than in his calm, calculated responses to insult, slander, and disrespect. In his private journal, later titled Meditations, he wrote not as an emperor preaching to others, but as a man disciplining himself. If someone can prove me wrong, he wrote, and show me my mistake or any thought or action of mine that is incorrect, I shall gladly change. I seek the truth, which never harmed anyone. That right there is the Stoic superpower. Seeing criticism not as an attack, but as an opportunity. If it's true, use it to grow. If it's false, discard it without anger. In both cases, you remain calm. The first rule in the Stoic Playbook is this: don't take insults personally, because they're never really about you. The Stoics believe that people's words reveal more about their own inner state than they do about the target. If someone insults you, they are often projecting pain, envy, or insecurity. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, you always own the option of having no opinion. There is never a need to get worked up or to trouble your soul. That's the second rule. You don't need an opinion about everything. When insulted, you can simply let the words pass. You can say nothing. You can remain still. This is not weakness, it's power. Most people are slaves to their emotional reflexes. They must respond. They must argue. They must defend. But the Stoic chooses to observe, to pause, to reflect. The third rule is to examine the insult rationally. Ask, is it true? If yes, then thank your enemy. They did you a favor. If it's not true, why be disturbed by what has no weight? This mindset creates a psychological fortress. It disconnects ego from reality. Marcus often reminded himself that external things are not within our control. Only our judgment of them is. When you take ownership of your perception, you stop giving away your peace. The fourth rule is to practice empathy toward the insulter. This may sound soft, but it's deeply Stoic. Marcus wrote, whenever you are offended, remember this, you're complicit in taking offense. He believed that understanding human nature was essential. If someone insults you, they are acting from ignorance or weakness. Why respond with anger? You wouldn't rage at a blind man for stepping on your foot. The Stoic sees emotional immaturity in the same way, as blindness of the soul. So instead of reacting, he pities the insulter. He understands. He stays calm. That's rule number 5. Practice the moral high ground not as a tactic, but as a principle. When you refuse to descend to pettiness, you preserve your character, and more importantly, your power. The final rule is to rehearse insults mentally before they happen. The Stoics used a practice called premeditatio malorum, premeditation of evils. Marcus would ask himself, what insults might I hear today? What attacks might come? And how will I respond? This way, he met life prepared, not surprised. He trained his mind like a warrior trains his body. So when the moment came, he didn't react. He executed his training. Calmly. With dignity. Without ego. That's the Stoic Playbook in action. No rage. No drama. Just clarity, reason, and inner control. The modern world is loud, cruel, and fast. But Marcus Aurelius still whispers through the noise. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That's not a quote. It's a command. And if you follow it, you become immune. Daily Stoic practices to build emotional immunity. Becoming immune to insults isn't something that happens overnight. It's built through consistent mental discipline, sharpened over time by daily practice. The Stoics weren't interested in theoretical philosophy. They wanted something that worked, something you could apply every single day to sharpen your character like a blade. So how did Marcus Aurelius and other Stoics build emotional armor? The first practice is morning reflection, also called premeditatio malorum. Each morning, Marcus would mentally prepare for what the day might throw at him. Today, he wrote, I shall meet with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness. He didn't do this to become cynical. He did it to fortify himself. Expecting the worst removes its power. When you're insulted, you don't feel shocked. You feel prepared. That's the key. The second practice is journaling, a Stoic tradition that isn't about productivity hacks or planning your day. It's about self-examination. At the end of each day, reflect. Where did I lose my temper? Where did I react? What was said to me? And how did I respond? Could I have handled that insult with more grace, more stillness? This builds self-awareness, the foundation of Stoic immunity. Next, practicing the pause is essential. This means inserting a small moment between the insult and your response. When someone says something offensive, don't immediately fire back. Breathe. Observe. Notice the feeling, but don't become it. This gap between trigger and reaction is your power zone. Viktor Frankl, deeply influenced by Stoic ideas, said, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. The fourth practice is negative visualization, imagining worst-case scenarios without fear. This isn't pessimism. It's resilience training. Ask yourself, what if I was insulted in public? What if someone questioned my worth in front of others? Visualize it. Then imagine yourself remaining calm, responding with silence or a thoughtful word. Over time, your nervous system learns not to panic. The fifth daily practice is detachment from opinion. The Stoics repeated to themselves, what others think of me is none of my business. They reminded themselves that external judgments don't define internal reality. If someone insults you and you don't react, they lose power. You rise. You win by not playing. Epictetus said it best. If anyone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, do not make excuses about what is said of you, but answer. He was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned only these. This is spiritual judo, using the insult to diffuse itself. Another key habit is meditating on impermanence. Remember, every insult, every hurtful comment, every clash of ego, it will pass. The Stoics constantly meditated on mortality and time. Marcus wrote, all is ephemeral, fame and the famous as well. If this person who insulted you is going to die one day, and so are you, why let their words disrupt your soul today? Daily detachment is freedom. Lastly, Stoics practiced gratitude for challenge. Insults are not interruptions to peace. They are opportunities to prove your peace. Every insult is a test of your composure, your self-knowledge, your training. When someone tries to provoke you and fails, that's a victory far greater than scoring verbal points. That's control. That's Stoicism alive. These aren't abstract ideas. They're tools, rituals, mental reps. Use them daily, and you'll no longer fear the sting of disrespect. You'll rise above it. Not by pretending it doesn't matter, but by building a self so strong it truly doesn't. Real-life stories of Stoic composure in the face of insults. Stoicism is not a dusty relic of ancient scrolls. It's a living philosophy proven in real moments of challenge, especially when insults strike. One of the most powerful examples comes from the philosopher and Roman statesman Cato the Younger. Known for his incorruptibility and unshakable principles, Cato was a magnet for political enemies. One day, a man publicly spat in his face. Cato calmly wiped it away and went about his business unfazed. He didn't strike back. He didn't demand an apology. He lived the principle that outrage is a choice. This wasn't weakness. It was strength so profound that even his enemies feared his self-control. Another story involves Epictetus, the Stoic slave turned teacher. His master once broke his leg in a fit of rage, yet Epictetus calmly observed the pain and said, "I told you it would break." Even in suffering, he kept his dignity. He had already trained his mind to separate what was within his control, his reaction, from what was not, his master's cruelty. In modern times, we see echoes of this Stoic strength. Think of Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist who endured unimaginable insults and dehumanization in concentration camps. Inspired by Stoic thought, he realized that no one could steal his inner freedom unless he gave it away. "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing," he wrote, "the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances." His grace under pressure wasn't accidental. It was Stoic muscle. Even modern public figures have demonstrated Stoic poise. Take Michelle Obama. When publicly insulted and dehumanized during political campaigns, she responded with the mantra, "When they go low, we go high." Whether or not she studied the Stoics, her response echoed their essence. Don't descend to the level of insult. Maintain virtue. Protect the inner fortress. And then there's Marcus Aurelius himself, who led during plagues, betrayal, and military upheaval. Surrounded by sycophants and critics alike. He once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." Marcus had the power to crush his critics, but his greatness lay in restraint. He wrote not to impress others, but to instruct himself. His life was his message. Even when enemies mocked him, he responded with logic, not fury, with virtue, not vengeance. These examples, ancient and modern, prove one timeless truth. Insults only destroy those who hand over their power. Those who stand firm, who refuse to let words infect their peace, rise above the noise. Stoic composure isn't passive, it's active strength. It's training the mind like a soldier trains for war. So when the insult comes, you don't collapse. You demonstrate your discipline. That's what Stoicism gives. Not immunity from insult, but immunity from being ruled by it. And that power, once built, can never be stolen, only given away. Conclusion and final call to action. In a world addicted to outrage, quick tempers, and emotional reactions, the ability to remain calm under pressure isn't just rare, it's revolutionary. The Stoics didn't offer magic. They didn't promise a life free of insult, judgment, or hardship. What they gave us was far more powerful. A mindset that makes you mentally untouchable. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca showed that insult loses its sting when the self is strong. When your identity isn't fragile. When you don't hand your peace to every fool with an opinion. They taught us that the greatest strength isn't shouting louder. It's standing still, unshaken, unmoved. This isn't weakness. It's mastery. Because if someone else can control your emotions, they control you. But if you can pause, breathe, and choose your response, you are free. And that's the point. Freedom. Not political freedom, but inner freedom. The kind that can't be taken, only surrendered. And once you stop surrendering it to insults, you begin to live above the noise. So, here's your challenge. For the next 7 days, when someone says something disrespectful, or posts something online that provokes you, pause. Just pause. Say nothing. Let it pass like wind. And in that silence, you'll hear something powerful. Your own strength growing. That is Stoicism alive. That is the mindset of Marcus Aurelius in your bones. If this message struck something deep in you, don't just nod. Apply it, practice it, and share it, because the world doesn't need more noise. It needs more strength, more stillness, more people who don't flinch when insulted, but rise calmly, live wisely, and walk with power. Shield, now it's your turn. If you found value in this video, hit like to support Stoic wisdom in the algorithm. Click subscribe to join a growing community of modern-day warriors practicing ancient strength. And drop a comment below. What's the harshest insult you've overcome without reacting? Your story might inspire someone else to stay calm when it matters most. Thanks for watching. Remember, your reaction is your power. Never give it away.